Why, hello, YouTube. Welcome back. This is Baylor Mage again, and today we got some spoilers that I am actually pretty excited about. Teasers, I guess? Teasers more than spoilers. We got both of the Guardian nodes. We got what the minions that they summon will actually do. Those are pretty interesting. And we got a bunch of 2020 supports and their details. So, spoiler alert, I think some of them are bait and some of them are actually fantastic. So, we'll go through all of those. So, let's jump into it directly because silly me already recorded this video once but was muted the entire time. So, let's go through them. All right, we're going to start with the new Guardian minions. Now, just for reference, Radiant Crusade is the first ascendancy. That is this one that gives you Summon Sentinel Radiant. That's the one on the right here. The one behind it, Unwavering Crusade. That's this one on the left. So we're going to go through them in order. So, Summon Sentinel of Radiance summons a Sentinel of Radiance that follows you and attacks enemies in melee range while burning enemies around it and taking a portion of the damage from hits for you. Can only have one Sentinel of Radiance. So this is basically just a mini RF minion that we can't support. So its base health is 13,000 basically, 12,944. We're just going to call it 13. It also has a 20-second duration at base, which is pretty good. What's important to know is it was confirmed somewhere, I don't have the link, but it was confirmed these numbers were shown to us on a level 85 character, which had no passive points spent in minions at all. There was no minion scaling or minion life scaling. So these are its base numbers at max level. The max level for both of these minions is 85. It scales with you to your maximum level up to 85 where it stops. So that's its base number. So that's a relatively reasonable amount of health. It's not insane. It's not like super tanky, but it's okay. It's okay for a base health with no scaling. It's fine. However, 30% of that as life per second to enemies nearby isn't really that much damage. Also, radius of 30 is quite good. 100% chance to taunt is quite good. But the damage portion, not super excited. However, 10% of damage from hits is taken from minions' life before yours is huge. That's the same as 11% more life. That's essentially what that is. Especially since this guy can be super easily replaced if he does die. Mixing this with a Jinx to Juju, if you have Spectres, would also give you 20% of damage from hits taken because you'd have 10% here and 10% from the Spectres. That's like the same as having a full champion fortify, so that's already pretty strong. The one question I have to do with this node is that the node itself says grants level 20 Summon Sentinel of Radiance skill and also says 10% of the damage from hits taken from your Sentinel of Radiance life before you. Those are two separate lines. This is the Summon Sentinel of Radiance. It also says 10% of the damage from hits taken from minions' life before yours. I suspect that this is just the same thing. It's just 10%. Those aren't separate. With that in mind, I still think this is pretty good defensively. It is the one I'm less excited about. I'm not too excited about its offense, but I think defensively it's pretty good. If I'm wrong about that and it does stack with the node on the tree and that it's 20%, and that with a Jinx Juju on and some Spectres, I can make that 30%, it's starting to get very, very, very strong. That's potentially like starting to go into like, there are ways to make this OP if it stacks up that high. I suspect it isn't. We're going to run with the assumption that it is only the base 10%. It's just listed on both the ascendancy and the skill for whatever reason. Because if it's not, and we can stack them, very, 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 very strong. So, moving on to the one that's more exciting to me. Summon Elemental Relic.
Hello, real quick. This is Baylor's editor. So after he recorded this, we got some info about how the auras on these skills work. So for the elemental relics, you get one of each right? You get a hatred, wrath, and anger aura up at the same time as long as you can maintain it. And of course, they refresh each other's duration. And the scaling for these auras are on the screen. This is the max amount, but essentially they're very close to level 27 variants of the auras. And I'm not going to lie, these look jacked as heck. Thank you.
Relic. Summons an elemental relic of a random element that stays near you. Depending on the element chosen, the relic will have an anger, hatred, or wrath aura. These relics explode when they die, dealing elemental damage to enemies around them. If you already have a relic of the chosen element, its duration will be refreshed instead of summoning a new one. So, this is huge. I have only 2 questions about this one, which aren't answered anywhere as far as I can tell. If they do get answered, I will pin a comment with the answers to this video because they're pretty important questions. 1, do I get one of these for each element as I clear through a map or kill a unique or whatever? Or do I only get one and it rapidly changes between them? Either way, it could be very, very, very strong. If it's only one and it changes between them, I'm going to need that to scale up to at least a level 20 aura. So it's giving me 1 level 20 aura. And then all I have to do is be playing minions that are base physical and converted to elements, which there are a lot of. And then this one becomes very, very strong, or playing a skill myself that's base physical and that converts to elemental. And then this will be very, very strong. If it's all 3, I don't expect it to be level 20. I don't expect it to scale all the way up to level 20. If it's all 3, which is what I'm hoping it is, I'm expecting level 10 to level 12-ish skills by the time it hits level 85. And if it scales up to give us level 10 to level 12-ish auras, if it's giving all 3 of them, that's going to be disgustingly strong. Really, really strong. Really, really excited about that. This one could be super interesting. The bit that interests me the most is minions explode on death, dealing 100% of their maximum life as damage of their chosen element. That is a lot of explode. That is a lot of explode. So I'm interested to figure out if there's a way to summon and kill them very, very regularly. These guys have 20,000 or just shy of 20,000 max life with no minion scaling at all. No life scaling on the tree anywhere. It'll be pretty reasonable to be able to get these up to 40, definitely possible to get them up to 60,000 life. And then you've also got all your minion damage scaling on top of it, plus your curses, plus whatever exposures and things like that. There may be a way to make these little popcorn explodey minions, but I haven't quite worked out how to kill them quickly yet, quickly and intentionally. So that could be interesting, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So both of these pretty good. I actually think with these Guardians not shaping up to be as shit as we thought at first glance before we knew what these two were, I was kind of on the Guardian rework looks kind of shit page. Now I'm like, this could actually be usable. I still don't think it's made it to S tier or anything. I still don't think it's become like super fantastic, but I do think it's become usable now, and I'm pretty interested in it. So we're going to move on to the gems we got today. Spoiler alert, some of them are bad. A really quick scroll through the bottom here will tell you that a few gems changed. To be honest, none of these changes are super important, at least in my mind. Combustion became a hybrid just so that it would require less stats, presumably so it can also be used with attack builds that are now trying to do attack ignite things. Ruthless support just got changed from only affecting bleed as far as ailments go to affecting all ailments. For me, it's more important that this now works with poison, which is something to look out for. Whirling Blades just uses both weapons at once. Not entirely sure what that change does, like functionally. Temp Chain's got a little bit of a nerf, and Cremation got the Orb tag. I don't really know why that's super important, to be honest. This one actually confused me. If you've played a bunch of Cremation and you know why this is important, feel free to let me know. But moving on, Which ones do I think are good and which ones do I think are bad of the new gems? Let's go through them. Controlled Blaze support. Each supported skill deals 14% more damage with Ignite for each Ignite inflicted recently, up to a maximum of 364%. Now, my problem with this node is that's a ridiculously high number, and the only time we're going to care about having that ridiculously high number is on a single target. If it was just 14% more with a chance to Ignite and it was in your links, it would already be fine for clear. Having 360% more on any skill wouldn't be needed for the clear. So this will only matter on single target. Very quick, like back of the hand math said I can get my ignites down to like half a second with another new support that we'll show later and some other nodes. Roughly, I can get that down to like half a second. That's just quick back of the hand math on builds I'm not super familiar with, but I only got it to half a second. Recently is only 4 seconds, so that means this is only happening 8 times on a single target. Now, 8 times is still a pretty big damage number. That's still 120% more damage with ignites, but that's only if you're applying the ignites twice a second, which means you're using a skill that's hitting super often. And I don't know if the ignite damage numbers just end up high enough to make that worth it. So for me, it'll be up to whether or not I can find a way to quicken the ignites down to like 0.3 or even 0.2 second total while still having them deal relevant damage. And if we can do that, this becomes great. I don't know how that gets done, but that's the way that this becomes good. This one, actually one of my favorite gems that's on today. Not my absolute favorite, but one of them. Corrupting Cry support. The idea of this one is you link it with a war cry. Everything that gets hit by the war cry gets corrupting blood stacks. Now, I thought that was interesting when we got shown it, but the number of corrupting blood is nearly double that of corrupting fever. The base number of damage, of physical damage over time, is nearly double that of corrupting fever. So that's super interesting. There are a lot of Warcry AoE nodes, and there are plenty of ways to reduce the cooldown of your Warcries. So I'm actually pretty interested in this one. If the cooldown can get low enough, you can just put your Warcry on left click and just like run around a map, and it becomes almost like an auto bomber of Warcries that cause corrupting fever. And that could be very, very cool. This is the first node or gem or anything in a while that has encouraged me to start thinking about trees in like this region, which is not a region I ever normally come to, but I'm actually looking at those now, not to league start, but like that looks interesting and I kind of want to play it. Those numbers are high enough and it's different enough that I actually think this could be cool. I'm not making it as a league start, that's for sure, but I am excited about that support gem. This support gem, I don't know if I'm just like 3-head and not smart enough to work out how this is like really good. It's a meme and it's kind of a funny meme. I don't know how Flamewood support is going to be good. Basically, totems from supported skills gain Avenging Flame skill and trigger it when hit by an enemy. You need to place totems, and then you need to have an enemy hit those totems. And then when that happens, then the skill goes off. And I don't know if I care exactly what this skill looks like or what it does. That entire process sounds tedious and slow, and I'm just not a fan. Perhaps there'll be some really interesting 5-head design things around this that I just don't know about, but for now, I'm putting that in the bait category. I'm just not playing that. Now, Guardian's Blessing. This one. Fantastic. Must support both a skill that creates minions which can be damaged and an aura skill that creates permanent auras around you. Cannot support triggers, banners, or stance skills. So supported skills have 32% increased aura effect, have no reservation, count as a blessing, you can only have one out. Supported skills cannot apply auras unless you have the minion. So you do have to have the minion out. Minions from supported skills take 14.3% of their total maximum life and energy shield as physical damage per second, while you have an aura from the supported skill on you. That's interesting. I wonder if they've missed Pride. I wonder if you can put Pride on because it doesn't affect you at all, and then there isn't an aura on me, and because there's not an aura on me, even though it has an aura, maybe it doesn't take the degen. That's something worth testing. Otherwise, we are definitely capable of making our Animate Guardians strong enough in certain builds to take this. The other option that I've seen thrown around is the Holy Relic is strong enough regen-wise to be able to handle this, and that could be interesting. And then my personal favorite will be on not necessarily a minion build, but right here, Liege of the Primordial Elementalist, +1 to number of summoned golems. Summoned golems are resummoned 4 seconds after being killed. Well, if we've got 2 or 3 stone golems out that are all linked to that, only one of them needs to be alive at any given time for us to have the aura. Which means as long as we've got, I think this is like just easy on an elementalist. You'll be using this. If you've gone these golem nodes, you're going to be using this. It's basically a free aura in that case. There are definitely going to be other ways to get around that degen. You're definitely going to see some necromancers using it. We're almost certainly going to see some guardians using it. But the most exciting use for it is definitely golems, Liege of the Primordial, Elementalist. That one's the key there. All right. I'm going to start moving through these a bit quicker. Trauma support. I'm going to be honest, those numbers are way higher than I expected. The flat damage per trauma number is actually quite high. I don't know attack builds well enough to be able to advise you on trauma, so I'm just going to move right over it. All I'm saying is those flat numbers scaled higher than I expected, so I expect it'll be used somewhere in something, but I don't deal with stick builds. I deal with ranged and magic builds, so this isn't for me, and we're gonna get ideas for that somewhere else. Volatility support. Supported skills deal 58% more maximum damage and 69 percent less minimum attack damage. So interesting thing to me. It's widening the range, bringing the minimum down and the maximum up. Places where this is really good and could be potentially very, very strong. Energy Blade, Hand of Wisdom in action, anything that does lightning damage. Lightning damage always has quite a small minimum and quite a large maximum, and just a tenet of lightning damage is that there's always that really large range there. So because the low is already so low, taking away 69% less of the low end isn't very impactful, but 58% more of the top end is very impactful. The other thing that springs to mind with this is, I forget the name of the node. I'm sorry, I forget the name of the node, but there's a timeless jewel node that makes it so that you can't wear helmets and all critical strike chance is lucky. Lucky rolls your damage range twice and takes the higher number every time. So if you do something like this with lucky or any other way to get lucky, that'll become really, really good. So the two standouts for this is going to be lightning damage and any way you can get lucky attack damage. Those will be the two mechanics to look out for this one. Overall, I don't think I'm super excited to use it because it doesn't suit any of the builds that I personally want to play, but I do think that could end up being quite strong. Locust Mine support. We're moving on to that one. That one is basically the same as all other mines, except they use only bows and wands, and they fire projectiles ahead of you instead of the default mine behavior. I'm so confused. I don't understand why this is a gem. I don't see its use case. All of my bow and wand attacks already target monsters automatically on normal mines. These mines target in front of where I am instead of the enemies, and they can't be detonated if I'm too close. There's a line in them that says mines from supported skills can't be detonated while within a radius of 30 of you, which is weird. I don't understand this one. I'm putting it in the bait category. Do be aware. There's so many things every single person doesn't know about this game. Maybe I'm just missing something. I could have just a weakness in thought or knowledge, and maybe it's good, but I don't see it. I'm putting in the bait category. We're calling it bait. We're moving on. Return projectile support. Okay, this one was a hot topic for me personally because it's replacing Vengeance Cascade essentially. The TLDR is this is still really, really good with projectiles from supported skills deal 61% less damage when returning. The important part is that you can still think of this as 39% more single target damage and free damage at the back end that you weren't getting before. Because this less projectile only affects the returning projectile. So you have one projectile that comes out and does 100 damage. For every 100 damage it does on the way out, it's going to do another 39 on the way back. It's essentially 39% more damage at level 20. That's maybe not the very best support for like a lot of things. There'll be quite a few supports that'll give you like 42 to 45, but usually by the time you're at your 5th or 6th link, you're not getting 45s. You can get them like at the beginning. You're usually getting sometimes 39s, sometimes 32s, sometimes 29s, right? Like the 5th or 6th link. For me personally, I'm starting Lightning Arrow. This is probably going to be my 5th link. I think this is better than any other 5th link I could possibly put on. I still think this is really good. If we didn't have Vengeance Cascade last league and we were just getting this for the first time, everybody would collectively be losing their minds. The only reason they're not collectively losing their minds is because we're comparing it to Vengeance Cascade, the anoint that we lost. And to be honest, I think it makes more sense here in a gem, and it's still very, very strong. I'm going to be using it. All right, moving on. Sadism support. This one is part of what I was talking about with this ignite. A large part of it, actually. Supported skills. Damaging ailments inflicted with supported skills deal damage 79% faster, but have 80% less duration. That essentially leads to the ignite or poison or bleed or whatever you put it on, essentially doing the exact same amount of total damage, but doing it 5 times as fast. What used to take, if something took 10 seconds before, it takes 2 seconds now. If it took 5 seconds before, it takes 1 second now for the same amount of total damage. So this could be very, very good for things that are bleed and ignite, provided you have ways to reapply the ignite or bleed super quickly. Do not touch this support on poison. It will be bad. Poison can stack infinitely. There may be cases where you're like 2 or 3 or 4 times the total poison cap, where this might actually come into play. But for 99.99% of people, never touch this support on poison. This is purely for bleed and ignite. I'm interested to see what kind of very, very quick ignite builds people come up with. All right, moving on. Devourer support. 40% increased damage with hits against enemies that are on low life. That's not even a more. Killing blows with supported skills consume the corpse to recover a bunch of life. Honestly, I feel this only working in groups. This is going to be a group thing. Your like MF color might have Devour support and then instantly be able to get rid of all corpses and have like insanely infinite recovery. Probably great for group play. Not really interested to most people. Fresh meat support is super interesting. So now that we know what Weakened Fury does, this is a new minion support gem. And it makes it so that minions created by supported skills gain Wakened Fury and Adrenaline for 10% of their duration, up to a maximum of 10. For anyone wondering, this does not affect Poison SRS. We will not be using this gem. But certainly, if we can get the duration of minions of any minion to be up above 40, 45 seconds, preferably somewhere around the 60-second region, this is going to become insane. Adrenaline is really good. We all know Adrenaline, 100% increased damage and some amount of attack and cast speed. I think it was 20 or 25%, which is really, really good. But what we didn't know was Wakened Fury. Wakened Fury grants 3.9% base crit and 69 crit multi. The thing I'm the most excited to use this for is actually skeletal mages. I'm really interested in skeletal mages with both fresh me support and returning projectiles. I think that could be really, really interesting. If I was more of a gambling man, I'd be tempted to league start it. I think it could be really, really good. The important part is that this is for 10% of their duration up to a maximum of 10 seconds. So if their duration of a duration-based minion is only 10 seconds, you only get these buffs for 1 second, which is not enough to care. In fact, even if it's 25 seconds, you only get this buff for like 2.5 seconds. Still not enough. We're looking at a bare minimum of having like 45 second duration so that you keep this buff for 4 to 4.5 seconds. But even that feels a little low to me. Ideally, in my brain, I'm going to want the duration of my minions to be 60 seconds, so this lasts 6 seconds at least. Otherwise, it's going to feel real bad. I'm going to have to replace them way too often, and it's going to feel awkward and clunky. So we're looking for high duration minions, which is where I went to summon skeletons. I'm pretty sure we can get the duration of them up high enough that that'll feel really good. So that's the only one I've got in my mind. I think Animate Weapon has a pretty good duration to start with, and you can scale duration on that pretty well. So it might also work for Animate Weapon. Frigid Bond support. That is an incredibly high number. Supported skills damage and chill enemies between your linked targets. So this is like a link support that's going to put a big cold degen between you and the person you've linked to. Gonna be honest, still think link skills are basically bait and no one's going to use this despite the number being really high. That being said, me and 2 friends plan later in this league to do a little 3-man group where we just start using link skills from as early as we can, and we try and only deal damage with link skills, and there's just going to be 3 of us running around in every zone where A links to B, B links to C, and C links to A, and we'll just have this little triangle of cold death running around. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be absolutely horrible, but we're going to do it for the meme. It's too funny of an idea not to. But I don't see anyone legitimately using this. So, moving on. Sacrifice support. Sacrifice 20% of your current life when you cast to gain added chaos damage equal to 44% of your sacrificed life. Honestly, I haven't yet figured out what to use this in, but that is a pretty decent amount of flat chaos. The problem is there are also tons of ways to get a lot of flat chaos. So I wonder whether we're stacking with this or using this instead. Whether this is good or not, I don't know, but it's not particularly interesting to me. I'm not excited by it, even if the numbers are good and it ends up in a build. And this one is very unfortunate. Spellblade support, I believe, is bait. Supported skills have added spell damage equal to 135% of the damage of an equipped one-handed weapon. If there are 2 weapons equipped, each contributes 60% as much. So this seems like a really good thing. It seems at first glance to be really good. But we've done quite extensive testing, both here and in other places, of Battle Mage, which in most cases, almost across the board, doesn't actually hold up. So Battle Mage grants added spell damage equal to the damage of your main hand weapon, and it's an ascendancy, and we've tried to use it a lot in the past, and it's never actually been worth it. There've been some times where you can make it good enough, with the Volcanus Dagger or the Rebuke of the Val have been the current options for that. But even in those cases where you can make the build feel really good, if you just tweak it a little bit and put a real spell damage on instead, a real spell weapon on instead, it's ended up better. Now, that's only 100%, and this is 135%, but you're giving up a support gem for it. So I believe it's going to be similar in strength to Battle Mage, which is already not worth using, making this also not worth using. I'm putting this in the bait category. I hope somebody proves me wrong, but I'm putting it in the bait category. I'm displeased with the numbers on Spellblade support. I'm a little saddened by it. In my mind, I wanted to see this say something like 200% maybe would have given me a ballpark reason to use it. And then, you know, if it were 2 weapons are equipped instead of 200, it'd be like 240 or something like that. That would have made me think more about it and be like, okay, this might be really good. Let's see what we can do. But at those numbers, it's roughly equal to Battle Mage, which we already knew wasn't worth it. So out it goes. All right. Those are all of them. Those are all of the updates. I am fucking excited. Let's go. I need the new league to start right now. I will see everybody later. Goodbye.